You're watching Inside the Musician's Brain. I'm your host, Chris Pandolfi from the infamous String Dusters, and you're about to hear part of my conversation with the amazing Daniel Donato from episode 40 of the podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoy.
What do you feel like you focus your attention and awareness on? Like, for example, in your practice, or in your approach to performance, what do you focus on these days that you feel like helps deliver you to that heightened awareness of, whether it's being really present in the moment, being connected to everything? What do you feel like is getting you there these days?
Well, I feel like in my head, and I see this in a lot of other people's. I see this in everybody I meet. If I'm being honest, I feel like I almost have like a. There's almost like this it's almost like there's like a phone in my head that is like a thought adjuster of some kind,
Okay.
and it is a vehicle that allows you to translate what the other party on the phone is saying. And I feel like what the party on the other side of the phone wants me to do is to try to seek the truth and to play with the truth. So that is kind of my mantra these days, is that when I'm not playing with the truth on stage, I'm seeking the truth off stage. And that's kind of the trip there. And I feel, truth, beauty, and goodness are the main ideals that I'm always trying to grow with and bring into reality. And I use my faith, and I use grace, and I use my imagination and my persistence and my work ethic to try to render those things into space and time. Because those ideals are enduring and are spiritually eternal, and they inform these fleeting shadows of material reality. And I think that's a pretty obvious thing, at least to me. So that's kind of what pushes me now, is I kind of feel like I have this thought adjuster that I can almost like evolve and grow with in this like personality ascension, which I feel like what life ultimately is. Because when you die, they can study now, like Andrew Huberman talks about, like when you die on the physical side of things, like from the start of your life to the end of your life, on all physical fronts, everything starts to go downhill because you eventually die.
Mm-hmm.
Your blood, your oxygen levels, all that stuff, chemicals, everything, it goes down. But the personality never stops growing. So it never stops changing, and it never stops ascending. It never stops becoming more actualized. So that tells me that the personality is a vehicle that has a eternal destiny of some kind. And so I'm using my personality to try to bring in those, through the vehicle of music, I'm trying to bring in those values into time. Yeah.
Okay. There's a lot there.
There's a lot there.
There's a lot there.
Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah,
but I love this. This is great. But I want to try to just understand this idea of the translator, because there's something very cool there. And I think it points to the fact that if you pay really close attention to what's around you, it's all out there. It's all around you, and we're a part of it. But, But so much of what we experience in life and the Matrix just sort of covers that up from like such an early age. And then you have to somehow hone this, like what I think you're referring to as the translator, to understand and connect with and sort of see the outside world. Is it something like that?
I feel like it's there, it's installed, and I feel like it's infused upon energy, where bodies are electrochemical beings that have beginnings and ends. But when you are born, you have a personality that nobody else has ever had, that will create a reality and a life that nobody else has ever lived or will ever live. And so I can't help but think of it as this kind of weird duality, where if everybody is subjectively different and we arrive at these transpersonal truths such as the golden rules, etc. And
Mm-hmm.
there must be an objectively correct cosmic source in which we have a connection to. Whether you think you have a responsibility to that source is up to you. Whether you think you should have reverence for that source is up to you. How you want to integrate the frequencies and directions from that source or interpret them is entirely up to you, because you have free will to create your space and time life in whatever manner you see fit. And the way that you ever see anything fit to your life is through the specific subjective disposition of your personality. And so that to me is what the adjuster is doing for me. It's kind of giving me direction from the objective on how to most specifically actualize my subjective experience.
Okay, I'm with you. And how does that square with kind of the self idea? And I know, because I hear about this from a lot of musicians, and I know I've experienced some of it. It's almost like, you do have to work at kind of transcending this self thing and this me, this I. But how does that square with what you're referring to as your personality? I'm curious what you think about that.
So are you referring to the self in like a Jungian sense?
In terms of,
Or like
a basic idea of, your ego and your feelings of self-preservation and
okay, so more like a primitive religion sense of like, I don't want to die.
Okay,
Right?
yeah,
What's
sure.
my ego? Like that kind of stuff. Like,
Yeah, and then you form this image of yourself, and and then ultimately, I think, like you say, people who are seekers and who ask a lot of these questions, we go through life and we try and put these things together in a meaningful way, because you do have a life here, and we are going to get off this interview, and I do have to go to the store later and all these sorts of things.
right? Yeah.
But there's also a much, much deeper, more powerful thing at play that is also here inside of me in some way. But I'm just curious. I hear you using the idea of a personality, and I think that that's interesting. And I'm just sort of wondering, where that fits in to you.
Where does personality fit into, or like how do I work with the self and the ego in regards to these concepts?
Yeah, and just what is that personality? Is that, because you refer to it as something that's uniquely you, and I love that, and I believe in that. We do all have, we are something, but it can be hard to understand those concepts together.
I became really interested in personality about 3 years ago, and because I was seeing during the initial stages of COVID-19 on a medical level, and then also on a sociological, theological level. I was seeing that everybody kind of had their own take on what was this objective thing. Everybody had a subjective opinion based on an objective idea, and whether it was good, bad, or in the middle, which makes it real. I noticed everybody was looking at this thing in their own way. And so I started diving into personality a little bit more, and I did some personality tests, and I had my family take a personality test, and we were different people. My specific personality led me to music, and I'm really grateful for that, because it works out and worked out and is working out in a way that is very harmonious for me. And it's very good. Like, music's a perfect thing for me, and it was something that I think I'd always been seeking until it found me, and then I was just locked in forever. I remember the first time I played on stage when I was 14. I got off, and I just knew on a level that transcended linear logic that was what I was to do. That was the business that was set forth for me to go and do the bidding for my life. And I feel proud of that. So I find that when it comes to the ego, I think that's kind of part of this duality that we have here. Like, it seems like, if you like in the Kabbalion, the principle of correspondence, as above, so below. In order for anything to exist in this evolutionary realm of space and time, there needs to be a duality. That's like part of the tax for it to exist in a real way here. There needs to be a duality to it. And so, the ego is kind of representative to me of like the changing state-based thing that we are. And my personality was kind of just always there. And the way that the personality interacts with the ego creates all these states of anger, states of happiness, exorbitance, depression, anxiety, dreamlike charisma, improvisational persistence, and seekingness. All of these things.
Well, I think I'm with you. I'm hearing it. It's almost like you're describing it more akin to like your true nature, like something that's always been there. It's there and it gets covered up. Whereas like the ego is always sort of like tagging along with you and evolving, and you're learning how to like work with it.
But you need to survey.
It's not what you essentially are.
No. And that's why I really love the idea of render unto Caesar's that which is Caesar's, and render unto God's that which is God's. Because the Caesar essentially is a metaphor for the temporal, and the God is a metaphor for the eternal. And, nobody knows what that word means. Everybody has an idea on what that word means. As far as I know, and what I feel God is perhaps it's a word symbol that designates all personification of deity. And deity is also approximating something that which is divine. And so when I look in my mother's eyes and I feel the oxytocin dopaminergic reaction of love and eternal service, that feels divine to me. And when I look out into a crowd and I bend from the 15th fret to the 17th fret on the B string, and the lights go off and everybody goes, whoa, that feels divine to me. And when I look out the window in the morning and I see the leaves falling onto the ground, I, as a human, using my meaning-based seeking mind, find poetic nature in that. And then all of a sudden, the sound of silence starts playing in my head. And that feels divine to me. So the personification of all things divine is kind of happening, and I'm witnessing it at all times. So I don't really know where God begins or ends, which tells me that it's something eternal, getting back to the render unto God's that which is God's and that which is unto Caesar. So I kind of keep the Caesar-God duality thing alive in my mind all the time. And so with the ego, as a touring musician, you have to satiate the temporal in a real way. Like you can't get fucked up every night and be on a 7-night run, with 6 shows. Because, otherwise the temporal vessel that you're using to like kind of bring in these like eternal frequencies into the world, you're going to screw that thing up and it's not going to work.
Yeah.
So you got to render properly,
Sure.
Yeah.
I love that.